The large meeting room on the space station was silent. 12 alien leaders sat around a round table made of a strange blue metal. They watched as Tae-sung Kim, the human ambassador, stood up from his chair. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were firm. After careful thought, Earth must decline your offer to join the Galactic Confederation. We thank you for your time. Tae-sung's voice was calm and steady. The aliens looked at each other in shock. No one had ever turned down membership before. Supreme Counselor Jirax, a tall being with gray skin and forearms, leaned forward. His yellow eyes narrowed. Ambassador Kim, perhaps you do not understand the honor we extend to your species. The Confederation offers protection and trade that your young race needs to survive in this dangerous galaxy. Tae-sung smiled slightly. We understand the offer completely, Counselor. My translator has been very thorough. Jinwoo Park stood beside Tae-sung. As Earth's best linguist, he had spent the last 3 days listening carefully to the alien diplomats. He had noticed the hidden threats in their words, the way they spoke down to the humans as if they were children. The terms you offer would require Earth to give up 40% of our resources and accept limited voting rights. This is not acceptable to us. Tae-sung's words were simple but firm. The alien called Vorex, a warrior race representative with red scales and sharp teeth, slammed a fist on the table. You dare refuse? Your planet has no alliances. You are alone and vulnerable. Jinwoo whispered to Tae-sung. They're getting angry. The Vordax delegate is using threatening language that didn't translate well. Tae-sung nodded slightly but kept his focus on Jirax. We came here in good faith to discuss fair membership. Instead, we found that your idea of partnership is not what we hoped for. The human delegation began gathering their tablets and notes. 20 men and women in blue uniforms stood in perfect order. They had sat through 3 days of talks that got worse with each hour. A thin alien with skin like fog raised a long finger. This was Meridian, known for their skill in mathematics and cold logic. Your species fails to calculate the probabilities correctly. Small powers do not survive alone. This is fact. Tae-sung looked at Jinwoo, who nodded. They had both noticed how the Confederation spoke of other small powers that had joined them. Those races now served the bigger members with little say in their own future. We have made our decision. Earth will find its own path. Tae-sung bowed slightly, showing respect even in refusal. Jirax stood up, his gray face now darker with anger. You make a grave mistake, human. The galaxy is full of dangers you cannot imagine. Without our protection, who will help you when trouble comes? Jinwoo saw something in Jirax's eyes that the translation couldn't hide, surprise mixed with worry. These aliens had expected an easy victory, another world to add to their collection. They had not expected a refusal. We have faced dangers before, Tae-sung said. Humans are good at finding solutions to difficult problems. The delegation moved toward the exit. Captain Mi-jin Lee, the security leader, positioned her team around the diplomats. She had not trusted the aliens from the start. Something about their perfect smiles and grand promises felt wrong to her. This meeting is not finished, shouted another alien, the insect-like Quorith ambassador. Its voice came through a speaking device that made it sound like metal scraping on stone. The Confederation does not accept your answer. Tae-sung turned at the door. With respect, you must accept it. We are not asking for permission to leave. We are informing you of our decision. The room erupted in angry voices and threats. Jinwoo's translation device couldn't keep up with all the different languages being shouted at once. As they walked down the long hallway toward their ship, Jinwoo moved closer to Tae-sung. Sir, I don't think anyone has ever walked out on them before. Their language patterns showed complete shock. Tae-sung nodded. Did you notice how they kept talking about the proper place for new species? How they wouldn't show us their other member worlds or let us speak to them privately? Yes, Jinwoo agreed. And their treaty would have given them access to all our technology, while sharing very little of theirs. Captain Mi-jin checked her weapon as they approached the docking area where their ship waited. I don't like this. They're too angry. We should leave quickly. The human ship Horizon waited for them. It wasn't the biggest or most impressive vessel at the space station, but it was theirs. Captain Do-hyun Kang greeted them at the entry door. How did it go? He asked, though the serious faces already gave him his answer. We're leaving, Tae-sung said. Get us home as fast as possible. Do-hyun nodded and began barking orders to his crew. The ship hummed to life as the engines started warming up. Jirax and 3 other Confederation leaders hurried into the docking area. Ambassador Kim, you cannot leave like this. The Confederation has no authority over Earth or its representatives, Tae-sung interrupted. We came as guests to hear your offer. We have heard it and decided not to accept. Our business is finished. Jirax's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. No one walks away from the Confederation. No one. Mi-jin stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. We are walking away. Right now. The ship's door began to close. The last thing Jinwoo saw was Jirax's face, a mix of anger and something that looked like fear. Once inside, Tae-sung let out a long breath. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we're coming home and to prepare for Plan Silent Shield. Jinwoo looked surprised. Sir, that's our emergency protocol. Do you think they'll attack Earth? Tae-sung looked out a small window at the alien station growing smaller as they pulled away. Not right away. First they'll try to convince us, then threaten us, then try to divide us. When those fail, yes, they might attack. But we'll be ready, Mi-jin frowned. I still don't understand why they want Earth so badly. We're not the most advanced planet they could ally with. Tae-sung sat down heavily in a chair. It's not about allies, Captain. It's about servants. They don't want partners. They want worlds they can control and use. I suspect the other member worlds are little more than colonies now. On the bridge, Do-hyun was getting strange readings on his screen. Ambassador, we're picking up unusual energy signals from the edge of our solar system. Something big just arrived there. Jinwoo looked over the captain's shoulder at the data. Those look like the same energy patterns we detected from their larger ships. And there are a lot of them. Tae-sung's face grew more serious. They're moving faster than I expected. Captain Kang, maximum speed to Earth. We need to warn them. The horizon jumped to high speed, racing toward Earth. Behind them, on the Confederation station, Jirax called an emergency meeting of the Council. The humans have refused us and left, he told the gathered leaders. This has never happened before. Send ships to blockade their world, suggested Vorex. They will soon beg to join when they cannot trade or travel. The Meridian representative tilted its head. I calculated only a 0.03% chance they would refuse. This does not fit our models of behavior. We need more data. Jirax paced the room. There is something different about these humans. They saw through our offers too quickly, and their technology, while not as advanced as ours, has unusual elements we don't fully understand. Should we reconsider our approach? Asked a quieter voice from the corner. This came from Zolon, one of the oldest members of the Confederation. Perhaps offer them better terms. Jirax spun around. No. If we show weakness to one race, others will demand the same treatment. The Confederation works because new members know their place. These humans must learn that lesson. Back on the horizon, Jinwoo was studying the data from their sensors. Ambassador, the alien ships are not following us. They're spreading out around the edge of our solar system like they're setting up a barrier. Tae-sung nodded grimly. They want to isolate us. Cut us off from any potential help and show us how alone we are. He turned to Mi-jin. Send a coded message to all Earth defense units. Tell them to activate Protocol Dread Silence immediately. Mi-jin looked startled. Sir, that's our most extreme contingency plan. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything, Tae-sung said quietly. What we saw in that meeting room wasn't a peaceful federation. It was an empire that absorbs worlds and calls them members. And we just did the one thing empires can't tolerate. What's that? Jinwoo asked. Tae-sung's eyes were hard now, all diplomacy set aside. We said no. As the horizon raced toward Earth, strange energy readings began appearing all around their solar system. The Confederation had arrived in force, and they were not used to being refused. What they didn't know was that humans had prepared for this possibility. For years, Earth had watched the stars and wondered if they were alone. They had hoped first contact would bring friendship and cooperation, but they had also planned for the alternative. And now those plans were being put into action. Earth was about to go silent, and the galaxy would never be the same. Morix, the chief intelligence officer for the Galactic Confederation, entered the Grand Council chamber with quick steps. His blue skin looked almost gray with stress. He bowed low before Supreme Counselor Jirax and the 11 other council members. Supreme Counselor, I bring troubling news, Morix said, his voice tight with worry. Earth has gone completely silent. Jirax waved two of his forehands dismissively. They are sulking after rejecting our generous offer. This is expected behavior from primitive species. Morix shook his head. No, counselor. I mean truly silent. All communications have stopped. Our sensors detect no transmissions from their planet. Their satellites have gone dark. Their space stations appear abandoned. This caught the council's attention. The Vortex representative leaned forward, red scales glinting in the chamber's light. Explain. 3 days ago, shortly after Ambassador Kim's ship returned to Earth, all human communications suddenly ceased. No radio, no digital signals, nothing. It's as if they simply disappeared. The Melidian counselor's misty form rippled with concern. This is statistically improbable. No planetary civilization can coordinate such a complete communications blackout. In a secure underground facility beneath Seoul, junior diplomat Hae-Won Lee watched as technicians worked at their stations. Screens around them showed the progress of Protocol Quiet Shield. On one large monitor, a map of Earth glowed with thousands of red dots that were rapidly turning green. Communications blackout is at 97% compliance, ma'am, reported a technician. The remaining signals are decoys as planned. Hae-Won nodded. And the fleet? Admiral Choi reports all vessels have reached their designated hiding positions. The decoy ships are in place and broadcasting fake signals. She walked to another screen showing the positions of Confederation ships around the solar system. They seemed confused, their movements erratic as they searched for signs of human activity. They expected us to panic, Hae-Won said quietly, to beg for help or lash out in fear. They don't understand humans at all. Back in the Confederation Council chamber, Jirax was growing angry. Send more probe ships. They cannot hide an entire planet. Morix looked uncomfortable. We have sent 12 probe ships, Counselor. 5 have not returned. The others report strange sensor readings that make no sense. They detect life signs and technology, but cannot pinpoint locations. It's as if the humans have created some kind of disruption field. Impossible, shouted the Vordax representative. Their technology is not advanced enough. The Korath counselor's mechanical voice grated through the chamber. Perhaps we underestimated them. The human ambassador seemed too confident when refusing our terms. In orbit around Jupiter, Admiral Sung-Ho Choi's flagship floated silently among the gas giant's many moons. From this hidden position, his sensors could track the movements of the Confederation fleet. 30 Earth ships were concealed similarly throughout the solar system, watching and waiting. They've sent another probe toward Earth, reported his sensor officer. Same approach vector as the last one. Sung-Ho nodded. Let it pass through the outer defenses. Have it detect exactly what we want it to detect. His second-in-command, Captain Jun-Ho Park, looked concerned. Sir, how long can we maintain this deception? We have millions of people hidden in bunkers and cave systems. Eventually they'll need to return to the surface. Just long enough, Sung-Ho replied. We don't need to fool them forever. Just long enough for Phase 2. On Earth, in a vast underground facility, engineer Ji-Hai Kang worked with her team on the final adjustments to a massive engine prototype. This wasn't conventional technology. The design incorporated principles that Earth scientists had kept secret during all interactions with the Confederation. Power flow is stable, Ji-Hai announced as the engine core began to glow with a soft blue light. Quantum field alignment at 89% and rising. Her assistant, Young Min Bei, checked another set of readings. The Confederation still doesn't know about this technology? Ji-Hai shook her head. No. We were very careful during the negotiations to only show them our public-facing tech. They think we're still using basic fusion drives. Young Min smiled slightly. Their faces when they realize, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be long gone before they see our faces again, Ji-Hai said, returning to her work. The Confederation Council was now in its 5th hour of emergency session. Reports from across the solar system had only deepened the mystery. Human outposts on Mars and the Moon appeared abandoned. Orbital stations drifted empty. Yet sensors still detected life signs and energy readings across Earth. It makes no sense, Morix insisted. A civilization cannot simply vanish. An older counselor named Zethus, who had remained quiet until now, finally spoke. Unless they want us to think they have vanished. All eyes turned to him. Zethus continued. Consider the possibility that the humans are not reacting in fear, but acting according to a plan. What if they anticipated our response to their refusal? Jirax scoffed. A primitive species could not anticipate the strategies of the Confederation. Yet here we are, Zethus noted dryly, confused by their actions. On the far side of the moon, hidden from both Earth and the Confederation ships, a massive construction project was underway. Thousands of workers assembled components for what would become Earth's first deep space colony ships. Supervisor Daejung Hwang checked his tablet as new supplies arrived from the hidden lunar base. We're ahead of schedule. The first ship will be ready for testing in 2 days. His colleague, Minseo Kim, looked up at the massive hull taking shape. Do you think it will work? The quantum tunneling technology hasn't been tested at this scale before. It has to work, Daejung said firmly. Earth is just the beginning. Humans were never meant to stay in one solar system forever. 1 month after the humans had walked away from negotiations, panic was beginning to spread through the Confederation. 3 minor member species had reported unusual contacts with what appeared to be human representatives. Though no one could explain how humans had reached those distant worlds without being detected. In the council chamber, Jirax faced increasing criticism. You assured us the humans would crawl back begging for protection within days, accused the Vordax representative. Instead, they have become ghosts, and rumors spread that they have technology we do not understand. Worse, added the Melidian counselor, our trading partners are asking questions we cannot answer. If humans can defy the Confederation, perhaps others will try. Jirax slammed all 4 hands on the table. Enough, I have authorized a direct approach. Our main battle fleet will enter Earth orbit tomorrow and demand they respond or face consequences. Zethus looked troubled. Escalation may not be wise. We still do not understand what we are facing. We are facing disobedience, Jirax shouted. Nothing more. They will learn their place. In the presidential bunker beneath the mountains, President Min Jae-yoon met with his crisis cabinet. The room was secure against any known form of surveillance. Admiral Choi reports the Confederation battle fleet is moving toward Earth, announced. Defense Minister Hong Jun-lee. Approximately 70 ships, including what appear to be weapon platforms. Min Jae nodded calmly. And our preparations? Phase 1 is complete, replied Haewon Lee. The Confederation remains confused by our disappearance. They have found only our decoys. Phase 2 is proceeding on schedule, added Ji-hee Kang. The prototype engines are functional. The colony ships will be ready within 2 weeks. Min Jae looked at the final person at the table, who had remained silent until now. This was Do-hyun Kang, the scientist whose discovery had changed everything. Dr. Kang, will you please share with us what you found in the ancient archives? I think everyone needs to be reminded of what we're dealing with. Do-hyun stood and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images appeared showing various alien species. These are records I discovered in ruins on Mars 3 years ago. They belong to a species that visited our solar system 50,000 years ago. The archives contain histories of hundreds of civilizations, including the early days of what would become the Confederation. The images changed to show planets being stripped of resources, species being relocated. The Confederation began as a predator, not a partnership. New species are invited to join, then gradually stripped of autonomy and resources. Over time, they become dependent servants. The founding species, the ones we met on the council, have been doing this for thousands of years. Minister Lee looked grim. And they intended to do this to us. Yes, Do-hyun confirmed. The archives show their pattern clearly. Had we accepted their offer, within a century Earth would have been a resource colony with humans working as laborers for Confederation masters. The room was silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, President Min Jae spoke. We've been preparing for this possibility since we discovered the archives. Now we implement the final phases of our plan. We will not fight the Confederation directly. That's what they expect, and they're prepared for it. Instead, he continued, we will simply leave. The next day, the Confederation battle fleet entered Earth orbit. Their massive ships cast shadows over the seemingly empty cities below. For hours, they broadcast demands for the human leaders to respond. No answer came. Growing frustrated, Fleet Commander Gralthak ordered a show of force. Commander Gralthak paced the bridge of his flagship, the dominant force. 3 months had passed since the humans had seemingly vanished. His mission to bring them back to negotiations had failed completely. Now he would face the Council's anger. Report, he barked at his science officer, a nervous Melidian whose misty form trembled slightly. "Commander, we have searched every part of their planet. The cities are empty. Underground scans show no large groups of humans. Their orbital stations are abandoned, yet what?" Gralthak growled. "Yet our sensors still detect scattered life signs and energy readings. They make no pattern we can understand. It's as if they're deliberately confusing our equipment." Gralthak slammed his fist on a console. "Impossible. They are primitives. They cannot hide an entire species from our technology." On the small Confederation research vessel Curious Mind, a young scientist named Length made a discovery that would change everything. His ship had been tasked with studying human defense satellites, trying to understand their technology better. "Captain," Length called out, "I found something unusual in this human device." Captain Zortel approached the workbench where the satellite lay disassembled. "What is it?" Length pointed to a small component that glowed faintly blue. "This isn't a communication device or a weapon. I believe it's a quantum field generator." "That's impossible," Zortel said flatly. "Quantum field technology is theoretical even for our most advanced scientists." "Nevertheless," Length insisted, "that's what this is. And it's more sophisticated than anything in our research programs." Across the galaxy, in a star system the Confederation had never reached, the first human colony ship emerged from quantum space. The massive vessel, carrying 100,000 people and supplies, took up orbit around a habitable planet. On the bridge, Captain Yunji Kwan looked at the beautiful blue-green world through the viewscreen. Perfect arrival coordinates. The quantum tunneling drive performed exactly as designed. Beside her, Navigation Officer Jae-hoon Shin checked the star charts. "We're approximately 15,000 light-years from Earth, Captain. Well beyond any known Confederation territory." Yunji nodded with satisfaction. "Begin surface scans. Let's find the best location for our first settlement." In the command center below the ship, colony leader Seo Jun Park reviewed the mission plans with his team. "Remember, we're not just building a refuge. We're establishing the first node in humanity's new network. Within a year, we'll have quantum communication relays connecting us to the other colony ships." His deputy, Ha-Yun Cho, looked thoughtful. "Do you think the Confederation will ever find us?" "Eventually, perhaps," Seo Jun admitted. "But by then, we won't be a vulnerable colony. We'll be ready." Back in the Confederation Council chambers, Supreme Counselor Jirax faced uncomfortable questions from the other members. "How does an entire species disappear?" demanded the Vordax representative. "Your fleet has found nothing but empty cities and confusing sensor readings." Jirax's gray skin darkened with anger. "They must be hiding on their own planet. No species has the technology to evacuate billions of individuals." The elder counselor Zethus spoke up. "Perhaps we should consider another possibility. What if they had technology we don't understand? Technology they deliberately hid from us during negotiations? Absurd." Jirax spat. "They are centuries behind us." "Are they?" Zethus asked quietly. "Then why can't we find them?" At that moment, a messenger entered the chamber and whispered urgently to Jirax. The Supreme Counselor's yellow eyes widened in shock. "This meeting is adjourned," he announced suddenly. Rising from his seat, the other counselors protested, but Jirax had already left the room. He hurried to his private chamber where Morix, his intelligence chief, waited with a holographic display. "Show me," Jirax demanded. Morix activated the hologram. It showed a star system on the far edge of known space, nearly 5,000 light-years from Earth. "Our outpost in the Vorlex system detected this 2 days ago." The image zoomed in to show a small installation on an asteroid. "Human in design. How is this possible?" Jirax whispered. "They couldn't have reached this system so quickly. Our fastest ships would take years." "That's not all," Morix continued grimly. "We've received reports from 3 other distant outposts, all reporting the same thing. Small human installations appearing seemingly overnight." Jirax collapsed into his chair. "They have faster-than-light travel beyond our capabilities." "It appears so," Morix agreed. "And something else. The humans at these outposts have been making contact with some of our smaller member species, privately. On the human colony world, now named New Hope, the first city was taking shape. Prefabricated buildings rose quickly as construction teams worked around the clock. In a central facility, Dr. Do-hyun Kang supervised the installation of a massive device. "Quantum communication array is online," announced a technician. Signal strength at 100%. Do-hyun nodded with satisfaction. Establish connection with Earth base. The screen before him flickered, then showed the face of President Min Jae-yoon, still in his bunker on Earth. Dr. Kang, I'm pleased to see the quantum communicator works at this distance, the president said. How goes the colony establishment? Proceeding ahead of schedule, Mr. President. The first city will be fully operational within a month. How are things on Earth? Min Jae smiled slightly. The Confederation is completely confused. Their ships still orbit our planet, scanning endlessly for our hiding places. They haven't realized that most of us are simply not there anymore. And the quantum energy source? Do-hyun asked. Fully functional. Jihee's team has it producing at 300% of projected capacity. We're completely self-sufficient now. This was perhaps humanity's greatest secret. While the Confederation relied on resources extracted from member worlds, humans had discovered a way to generate virtually unlimited energy by tapping into the quantum field itself. This discovery had made their escape plan possible. In another star system, the human diplomatic vessel Peaceful Intent approached a small world called Naraxis. This planet was technically a Confederation member, but like many smaller species, the Naraxians had joined only because they feared being alone in a dangerous galaxy. Inside the ship's conference room, diplomat Soo-jin Ryung prepared to meet with Naraxian representatives. Remember, she told her team, we're not asking them to rebel against the Confederation. We're simply offering an alternative relationship based on mutual respect. Her assistant, Hyun-woo Jang, looked nervous. The Confederation will see this as interference with their members. They will, Soo-jin agreed. But what can they do? They can't find us, much less stop us from traveling wherever we wish. The meeting with the Naraxians went better than expected. The small amphibious beings had long chafed under Confederation demands for resources and obedience. Your offer is interesting, said Chief Speaker Glesh, his wide eyes blinking slowly. But the Confederation would punish us severely for independent relations with humans. Soo-jin smiled reassuringly. Only if they knew, and only if they could reach you faster than we could. She activated a small device on the table. A hologram appeared showing the quantum tunneling technology. If you agree to our proposal, we would provide you with this. It would allow your ships to travel instantly to secure locations beyond Confederation reach. Your people could establish colonies of your own, free from interference. The Naraxian leaders looked at each other in amazement. This technology is real? Not theoretical? Very real, Soo-jin confirmed. We used it to establish colonies thousands of light years from Earth in just months. By the end of the day, the Naraxians had signed a secret agreement to join what humans were calling the Free Worlds Cooperative. 3 more. Confederation member species would follow within the week. Back on the Confederation capital world, Jirax called an emergency session of the full government, not just the council. Representatives from over 200 member worlds gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall. We face an unprecedented situation, Jirax announced. The humans who refused our membership offer have not only disappeared from their world but have somehow developed technology allowing them to reach distant parts of our territory. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Jirax continued. More troubling, they appear to be making unauthorized contact with some of our member worlds. A representative from a mid-sized world called Traxxas stood up. Supreme Counselor, is it true that humans possess instant transportation technology? My world has heard such rumors. Absurd rumors, Jirax snapped. No such technology exists. Then how do you explain their sudden appearance across the galaxy? Asked another representative. Before Jirax could answer, the assembly hall doors burst open. A messenger rushed in and handed a datapad to Morix, who read it with widening eyes before passing it to Jirax. The Supreme Counselor's face darkened as he read. Finally, he looked up at the assembly. 3 member worlds have just announced their withdrawal from the Confederation. Naraxis, Plex, and Vornumshock rippled through the assembly. No world had ever left the Confederation once joined. They claimed to have formed a new association, Jirax continued, his voice tight with rage. Something called the Free Worlds Cooperative. With humans in orbit around New Hope, a remarkable structure was taking shape. Engineers in spacesuits guided massive components into position as construction drones welded them together. In the Grand Council chamber of the Confederation capital world, chaos erupted. The representatives of 3 more member species had just announced their withdrawal to join the Free Worlds Cooperative. "This is an outrage," Supreme Counselor Girac shouted, all 4 of his arms gesturing wildly. "No species may leave the Confederation without approval from this council." The Plex representative, a tall being with iridescent skin, stood firm. "The treaty we signed never stated we could not leave. We joined freely, and now we choose to leave freely. The Confederation has exploited our world for centuries," added the Naraxian delegate. "The humans offer true partnership, not servitude disguised as protection." Girac's skin darkened with rage. "You would trust these humans? A species that hides in shadows and refuses to face us directly?" "They faced you directly," said the 3rd departing member, a Vornum diplomat. "Their ambassador looked you in the eyes and said no to your terms. That took more courage than any of us have shown in generations." As the departing delegates left the chamber, the remaining council members turned on Girac. "This disaster is your doing," accused the Vordax representative. "Your handling of the humans has led to the greatest crisis in Confederation history." "They must be stopped," Girac insisted. "Our fleet will depart tomorrow to destroy their main colony." "And where exactly is this colony?" asked Elder Counselor Zethus with quiet sarcasm. "After a year of searching, we have found only small outposts. Their main settlements remain hidden from us." In a private meeting room aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony, Sujin Ryung welcomed representatives from 5 more species considering joining the Free Worlds Cooperative. The ship was in orbit around Naraxis, now openly allied with humans. "The principles of our cooperative are simple," Sujin explained. "Equal voting rights for all member species, fair resource exchange, shared technology development, and mutual defense." A delegate from a small world called Tresic looked skeptical. "Fine words, but the Confederation offered similar promises when we joined." "What makes you different?" Sujin smiled. "Actions, not words. We've already shared our quantum tunneling technology with all founding members. No secrets, no withholding advancements," her assistant Hyunwoo Jang added. "And unlike the Confederation, we don't demand resource tributes or military bases on your worlds. Your sovereignty remains intact." The Tresic delegate seemed impressed but still concerned. "The Confederation will not let us leave peacefully." "They will send ships. Let them," Sujin said confidently. "Distance means nothing when you can travel via quantum tunneling. If threatened, your people can relocate to safe worlds instantly. The Confederation's power relies on their ability to isolate and intimidate. We've taken that power away." By the day's end, all 5 species had signed agreements to join the cooperative. In the command center on New Hope, General Junho Nam received an urgent alert from Earth's intelligence network. He immediately called a meeting with the colony leadership. "The Confederation has discovered the location of one of our smaller colonies," he announced to the gathered leaders. "They're sending a battle fleet to attack it." Colony leader Seojun Park frowned. "Which colony?" "Haven 3. Population approximately 20,000. They established only 3 months ago and are still building their defense network. We can evacuate them," suggested Ha Yun Cho. "The quantum tunneling ships can relocate everyone within hours." Junho shook his head. "President Min Jae suggests a different approach. This may be the opportunity we've been waiting for." "To implement Phase 4? Seojun asked. "Yes, instead of running, we make a stand. We show the Confederation exactly what they're facing." The plan was quickly set in motion. Rather than evacuating Haven 3, additional defense platforms were quantum tunneled to the colony overnight. Special combat teams from New Hope volunteered to defend the smaller settlement. When the Confederation battle fleet arrived at Haven 3 3 days later, they expected to find a vulnerable colony ripe for a show of force. What they found instead was a fully prepared defense system unlike anything they had ever encountered. Commander Gralthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dominant force as it led 50 Confederation warships toward the human settlement. Long-range scans showed a modest colony of domed buildings on a small rocky world. "Prepare to fire warning shots," he ordered. "Destroy their outer defensive posts first. Let them see our power before we demand surrender." His weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy readings around the colony. They don't match any known defense systems." "Irrelevant," Gralthak snapped. "These are just humans with some stolen technology. Fire as ordered." The massive Confederation ships launched their attack. Energy weapons capable of leveling mountains fired at the human colony's perimeter. But something extraordinary happened. Moments before the energy blast would have hit their targets, small platforms appeared out of nowhere, directly in the path of the weapons fire. These human defense stations absorbed or deflected every shot. Impossible, Gralthak shouted. No defense system can intercept fire that quickly. His sensor officer looked up from his station in shock. Sir, those platforms weren't there a second ago. They just appeared. Before Gralthak could respond, the human defense platforms vanished again, only to reappear surrounding his fleet. They were using quantum tunneling technology not just for travel between stars, but for tactical movement in battle. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered frantically. But it was too late. The human platforms fired. Their weapons were not designed to destroy the Confederation ships, but to disable them. Precision strikes knocked out engines, weapons systems, and communications arrays. Within minutes, 40 of the 50 Confederation ships were drifting helplessly in space. On the colony surface, in a command bunker, Captain Mi-Jin Lee directed the defense operation. She had been part of the original diplomatic mission that had walked away from the Confederation negotiations. Now she was showing them the consequences of their arrogance. All Confederation ships neutralized except for their command vessel, reported her tactical officer. No casualties on either side. Mi-Jin nodded with satisfaction. Open a communication channel to their flagship. On the dominant force, a stunned Gralthak received the transmission. The face of a human female appeared on his screen. Confederation Commander, Mi-Jin said calmly. Your fleet has been disabled. We could have destroyed you, but that is not our way. Your crew will remain unharmed. Gralthak struggled to comprehend what had happened. His mighty fleet defeated in minutes without a single casualty. What do you want? He demanded. Nothing from you, Mi-Jin replied. Your ship remains operational. You will take your defeated fleet home and deliver a message to your council. The Free Worlds Cooperative is not your enemy unless you make us so. We desire peace, but we are prepared for war if necessary. As the communication ended, Gralthak looked out at his crippled fleet. For the first time in his military career, he had been utterly defeated without understanding how it had happened. News of the Confederation fleet's defeat spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. More member species began quiet negotiations with human representatives. The cooperative grew to 25 worlds, then 30. Supreme Counselor Jirax faced the most difficult council meeting of his career. The chamber was filled with angry representatives demanding explanations. 50 ships, shouted the Vordax delegate. 50 of our best warships neutralized without a single loss on the human side. How is this possible? They are using the quantum field as a weapon, Morix explained reluctantly. Their defense platforms can appear and disappear at will, making our targeting systems useless. The Quarith representative's mechanical voice grated through the chamber. We have lost 8 member worlds this month alone. Our trading network is collapsing as former members establish new routes through human territory. For the first time in the Confederation's history, a vote of no confidence was called against a Supreme Counselor. Jirax watched in humiliation as the votes were tallied. The result was overwhelming. He would be removed from office. As he departed the chamber for the last time, Elder Counselor Zethus approached him. You never understood what we were facing, Zethus said quietly. The humans didn't refuse our offer out of ignorance or pride. They refused because they saw through our deception. They knew exactly what the Confederation really was, an empire that had forgotten how to call itself one. On New Hope, now a thriving city of over 100,000 humans, President Min Jae-yoon arrived for his first visit to the colony. His ship emerged from quantum space and was escorted to the surface by defense platforms that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. A large crowd gathered in the central plaza to hear him speak. Standing on a platform with colony leader Seo-jun Park and the other settlement founders, Min Jae addressed not just the humans before him, but also representatives from 15 other species who had joined the cooperative. 1 year ago, humanity faced a choice, he began. We could submit to the Confederation's demands and lose our independence, or we could fight a war we might not win. Instead, we chose a third path. We walked away and built something better. The crowd cheered. Min Jae continued. The Free Worlds Cooperative now includes 32 planets across this sector of the galaxy. 5 years had passed since humans had walked away from the Confederation's negotiating table. In that time, the galaxy had transformed. The Free Worlds Cooperative now included 73 planets spanning nearly one-third of known space. The Quantum Gate network connected distant worlds as if they were neighbors, allowing unprecedented trade and cultural exchange. On New Hope, now a thriving metropolis of over 1 million beings from 20 different species, preparations were underway for a historic summit. The grand meeting hall in the city center had been expanded to accommodate representatives from both the Cooperative and the Reformed Confederation. Supreme Commander Yun Ji Quan, who had led the defense of human colonies during the tense early years, walked through the hall with her deputy, checking security arrangements. The Confederation delegation arrives tomorrow, she told her team. I want everything perfect. No signs of weapons or military presence. This is about peace, not power. Her deputy, Colonel Jin Ho Yoon, nodded. All defense platforms will remain in quantum space, invisible but ready. The quantum gates have been programmed to reject any unauthorized ships. Yoonji smiled slightly. I doubt they would try anything now. Even the most hardline Confederation leaders have accepted that times have changed. Indeed, the Confederation had undergone a remarkable transformation. After their military defeat at Haven 3 and the continuing exodus of member worlds to the Cooperative, they had been forced to reform or face collapse. Under Supreme Counselor Zethus's leadership, the old exploitative practices had been largely abandoned. Member worlds now had equal voting rights and fair resource exchange, but the loss of their dominance had been painful for the founding species. Some, like the Vordaks, still resented humans for challenging the order they had maintained for millennia. In the presidential residence on New Hope, President Min Jae-yoon met with the original diplomatic team that had first encountered the Confederation. Ambassador Tae-sung Kim, now showing some gray in his hair, sat beside Dr. Jin-woo Park, Captain Mi-jin Lee, and Dr. Do-hyun Kang. 5 years, Min Jae said reflectively. 5 years since you all walked out of that negotiation room. Did you imagine we would be here now? Tae-sung smiled. Not in detail, no. But I knew we had to find our own path. The moment I saw how they treated other member species, I knew we couldn't accept their terms. Jin-woo nodded. The language they used revealed everything. They spoke of proper places and natural hierarchies. They never intended us to be equals. And now they're coming to us to negotiate as equals, Mi-jin said with a touch of pride. Because we gave them no choice. Do-hyun, whose discovery of the ancient archives had first warned humanity about the Confederation's true nature, looked thoughtful. We should remember that not all Confederation species were willing oppressors. Many were trapped in a system they inherited. Zethus, for example, always seemed to understand that their ways needed to change. The door opened and a young aide entered. Mr. President, the Confederation advance team has arrived to inspect the summit location. Min Jae stood. Very well. Ambassador Kim, shall we go greet them? For old times' sake? In orbit around New Hope, a Confederation diplomatic vessel emerged from conventional space. Unlike 5 years ago, when humans had traveled to the Confederation station as supplicants, now the roles were reversed. Inside the ship, Supreme Counselor Zethus prepared for his first visit to a human world. The tall ancient alien had lived through centuries of Confederation history, but nothing had changed his people as much as their encounter with humans. Are you certain this is wise? Asked his security chief, a Vordax warrior named Kraz. Going to their world puts us at a disadvantage. Zethus fixed him with a steady gaze. That thinking is what brought us to this point. Always seeing relationships as opportunities for advantage rather than cooperation. The founding species are still unhappy with these reforms, Kraz warned. Many feel we have surrendered our rightful place. Our rightful place was a delusion, Zethus replied. For thousands of years we convinced ourselves that dominating others was natural and necessary. The humans showed us the price of that arrogance. Their shuttle descended to the surface of New Hope. Zethus looked out the viewport at the beautiful city below. Unlike Confederation worlds, where different species were often segregated, here he could see beings of all kinds walking together on tree-lined streets. At the spaceport, Ambassador Tae-sung Kim waited with President Min Jae and a small welcoming party. No military, no show of force. Just a simple diplomatic reception. When Zethus stepped from the shuttle, he towered over the humans. Yet he bowed deeply in respect. a gesture that would have been unthinkable for a Supreme Counselor 5 years earlier. President Yoon, Ambassador Kim, thank you for welcoming us to your world, Zethis said. I believe we have much to discuss. Tae-sung stepped forward. Supreme Counselor Zethis, we are honored by your visit. Welcome to New Hope. As they walked from the spaceport to ground transportation, Zethis observed the city with interest. You've built something remarkable here, he commented. So many species living together as equals. That was always our vision, Min-jae replied. Not domination or exploitation, but true cooperation. Back in the city, the alien delegation was shown to their accommodations in a tower overlooking a central park. Security was present but discreet. The message was clear. The humans were confident but not threatening. That evening, a reception was held for both delegations. Beings from dozens of worlds mingled in a grand hall adorned with art from across the galaxy. The atmosphere was cautiously optimistic. During the gathering, Zethis found himself speaking with Dr. Jinwoo Park, the translator who had first noticed the hidden threats in Confederation diplomatic language. Your understanding of our communications was impressive, Zethis acknowledged. Most new species miss the subtleties, Jinwoo smiled. Language reveals truth even when speakers try to hide it. Your people spoke of partnership while planning for control. Yes, Zethis admitted. For too long, we convinced ourselves that our domination was for the greater good. That lesser species needed our guidance. He looked around the room at the thriving multi-species gathering. You have proven us wrong in the most effective way possible. Meanwhile, Captain Mi-jin Lee found herself in conversation with Kraz, the Vordak security chief who still clearly resented humans. Your defense at Haven 3, Kraz said stiffly. It was effective. Our military has studied it for years and still doesn't fully understand how you defeated us so completely. Mi-jin shrugged. We use technology differently because we think differently. The Confederation built weapons to destroy. We built systems to protect. Yet you could have destroyed our fleet, Kraz noted. Why didn't you? Because unnecessary destruction is wasteful and cruel, Mi-jin replied simply. We wanted to change minds, not end lives. This concept seemed to trouble the warrior deeply. In his culture, mercy was rarely considered a strength. The next morning, the formal summit began. Representatives from both the Cooperative and the Confederation gathered in the Grand Meeting Hall. The same round table design was used, symbolizing equality among all participants. President Min-jae opened the proceedings. 5 years ago, Earth was invited to join the Galactic Confederation under terms we found unacceptable. Today we meet not as potential subjects but as equal partners in shaping the future of this galaxy. Supreme Counselor Zethis spoke next. The Confederation has existed for millennia, but it has changed more in the past 5 years than in the previous 5,000. We have been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about our history and practices. This has not been an easy process, but it has been a necessary one. The discussions that followed were complex and occasionally tense. Old habits and prejudices didn't disappear overnight. Some Confederation representatives still struggled to treat smaller species as equals. Some former Confederation worlds, now in the Cooperative, harbored deep resentment for centuries of exploitation. During a break in the proceedings, Ambassador Tae-sung found a moment alone with Supreme Counselor Zethis. You've taken significant political risks to reform the Confederation, Tae-sung observed. That couldn't have been easy, Zethis sighed deeply. Many of the founding species still resist. Some have openly called for my removal, but the alternative was watching the Confederation collapse entirely, as more worlds left to join you. And what do you personally believe is the right path forward? Tae-sung asked. Zethis considered the question carefully. I have lived for over 7 centuries, Ambassador. I've seen the Confederation absorb hundreds of worlds. For most of that time, I never questioned our methods or motives. We were the advanced species, they were the primitive ones. Our dominance seemed natural and right. He paused, looking out at the diverse gathering, but watching how quickly you built the Cooperative, seeing how species flourish when treated as equals rather than subjects. It has forced me to question everything I thought I knew. That kind of reflection takes courage, Tae-sung said. Perhaps. Or perhaps it simply takes being proven wrong dramatically enough that one cannot ignore it. Zethis replied with a hint of wry humor. The negotiations continued for 7 days. Gradually, A framework for peaceful coexistence between the Cooperative and the Reformed Confederation took shape.